Thank you for joining me. My name is Diana Rockwell of Rising to Excellence Admin Training. We're going to examine what professionalism means and determine if you need to up your game. Along the way, we'll take a trip down memory lane and I'll share some personal experiences, both good and bad. Let's get started. The definition of professionalism is the competence or skill expected of a professional, the practicing of an activity by professional rather than amateurs. According to cron.com, professionalism and work ethic are two important features in a small business environment. Business owners often use these elements to ensure that their company operates in the highest professional and ethical manner possible. While businesses may be started under a variety of circumstances, they often contain similar business elements. The style and organizational structure may also depend on the entrepreneur's personal set of professionalism and his or her work ethic when handling business situations. Professionalism is often defined as the strict adherence to courtesy, honesty, and responsibility when dealing with individuals or other companies in the business environment. This trait often includes a high level of excellence going above and beyond basic requirements. Work ethic is usually concerned with the professional values demonstrated by business owners or entrepreneurs and instilled in the company's employees. The good work ethic may include completing tasks in a timely manner with the highest quality possible and taking pride in completed tasks. Professionalism and the work ethic demonstrated by individuals in the business environment are built around an internal moral code or system of ethics. Integrity and ethics usually represent the personal beliefs individuals display when working in business. Common traits often include transparency, honesty, and integrity. These personal traits often display themselves publicly in situations. A professional work ethic may be seen as someone walking the walk regarding their personal integrity and ethics. About 15 years ago, every time I turned around, I heard someone say, "Well, that isn't professional," about someone they were working with. I never heard anyone say, "That was handled very professionally." So I started thinking about what constitutes professionalism and how we label our colleagues and ourselves. That led me on a quest to determine what professionalism really is. And here is what I found out. Professionalism is a way we handle ourselves, our manners, how we do our jobs, how we present ourselves in our dress and our manner, how we speak, how we write, follow up, and even more. Mostly what I heard was people complaining about an action by someone else that they would not have done in the same circumstance. I heard members of a professional association say that a division president was unprofessional after she made a decision. She may have been, but more than likely it was because that person didn't like the decision. So until you've done the job, judging behavior may not be correct. A supervisor makes a statement to a subordinate's peer about a coworker. Eileen is so unprofessional. We need to replace her. That statement is totally out of place when said to another staff member. Any unhappiness with Eileen's performance should be addressed with her individually and personally. But what I noticed was the negative side of the term and behavior. It seems so subjective. What one person found acceptable, another did not. Were they using the word professionalism to mirror their own sets of values and work ethic? Very few people have the same ethics, and we know they don't have the same training or skill sets. What someone may call unprofessional can be a lack of training or simply an oversight. I know when I get really busy and I have a lot of things I need to get done in a short time frame, I'll forget the niceties and I won't say thank you and you're welcome and please. And it's never meant to slight anyone. It's safe to say that not everyone who works a job is a professional. There are professionals versus amateurs, meaning paid versus not paid. That's not the definition we're looking at today. What we want to explore is a set of behaviors people need to practice and offer their employers in order to be viewed as a professional in their field. The field we're most concerned with is, of course, the administrative professional. When I was in high school, students who took business courses learned typing, shorthand, business math, and what they called office practice. They spent 2 years in those classes, and then when they graduated, they were qualified to work in an office as a secretary, a file clerk, a receptionist, and possibly even a bookkeeper. Over the years, technology has changed how we do our jobs. We started using word processors and then computers on a daily basis. In the big layoffs in the 1980s, middle management was eliminated in order to save money. The tasks were then delegated to secretaries. We were no longer just secretaries and became administrative assistants, which run the gamut of job duties from making travel arrangements to taking notes at meetings, making appointments, budget reports, and budget analysis. And in my case, I order parts for IT, I order equipment, I manage parts inventory, and the cell phone fleet, as well as bill other departments for supplies, copies, and equipment and parts. Excuse me. In today's work environment, I see ads for admin jobs preferring a bachelor's degree and requiring an associate's degree. When I graduated from high school in 1975, there was no associate's degree, let alone a bachelor's in this field. If someone was working as a secretary and had those degrees, either they were incompetent in their chosen field and fell back on being a secretary, or they found they didn't like working in the chosen field. And that does happen a lot. Remember that old saying, if you can learn how to type, you'll always have a job? Well, that doesn't really hold water anymore. It's not quite that simple. So, about 55 years ago, the median income was $6,900 a year. And on that salary, you could buy a house and a car and provide for a family and live quite comfortably. Just as an example, gas was 32 cents and a new car was about $2,600. So what we see in professionalism is that it evolves over the years. So I'm going to share some examples of what used to be and might not be professional any longer. We didn't have a lot of the extra expenses that we do today, like cable, internet, and cell phone service. Our monthly electric bills were $10, $15, and you were happy with those 3 channels on television. You could buy 3 dresses for $10, Sears. I know, I did it. Fashion designers were scarce, and everyone bought their makeup from a department store or a drugstore. Miranda rights were ruled by an Arizona judge to be required for an arrest. The mini skirt became popular. The Batman TV show aired, and the Black Panthers were formed. The shooting spree at the University of Texas occurred. The first health warning goes on cigarette labels. In popular culture, Star Trek, the television show, first aired. Jacqueline Suzanne published her first novel, The Valley of the Dolls. Dr. Seuss' How the Grinch Stole Christmas aired. And for those die-hard 1960s girls, Dark Shadows debuted. Movies like 007 Thunderball, Dr. Zhivago, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf were all in theaters. The Mamas and Papas, Beatles, Monkees, Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, and Simon and Garfunkel were our popular musicians. Pampers were created. Color TV sets became popular, and Kevlar was first invented. And in England, the fiber optic was invented, thus changing our lives forever. In 1985, we had jumped past the computer age and were fully entrenched at work. AOL was sending free discs in the mail and offering them at the checkout counter at the store. And what was AOL anyway, and how did it work, and why did we need it? The average house was $72,000, huge jump. Rent was $350. A gallon of gas was $1.83, and we thought that was expensive. A movie ticket was $2.50. And as comparison, apples were 43 cents a pound. And bacon, $1.69 a pound. The 5 and 10 cent stores were still alive, but the mall was slowly killing them. Designer jeans and other fashions were the norm. Teens wouldn't go to school without those designer clothes. Shoulder pads and big hair were normal, as well as heavy makeup. Walking over people to get to the top was encouraged, especially for women. Ma Bell had been broken up into 24 independent companies. The Where's the Beef commercial put Wendy's on the map. Vanessa Williams becomes the first Miss America to resign after nude photos appeared in Penthouse magazine, and the first MTV Music Awards was held at Radio City Music Hall. The Cosby Show, the Transformers cartoon, Kids Incorporated, Who's the Boss, Miami Vice, Airwolf, Murder, She Wrote, Punky Brewster, Night Court, and Hunter were all the things we watched on television. Prince sang When Doves Cry, Ghostbusters, Wham was making hits along with Culture Club, the Thompson Twins, and Twisted Sister. For all you General Hospital fans, Jack Wagner hit the charts with All I Need. Beverly Hills Cop, Indiana Jones, the second installment, Gremlins, The Karate Kid, Footloose, Romancing the Stone, the third Star Trek movie, Splash, Amadeus, The Natural, Revenge of the Nerds, 16 Candles, and The Flamingo Kid were in theaters. Wow, what a year for movies. In 2002, the median income was $42,000. Rent had doubled, almost, well, more, to $715. Gas was $1.46. A new car was $25,000. A stamp was 34 cents, and bacon had jumped to $3.22. The sign of the times, Enron files for bankruptcy. Pacific Gas and Electric in California did also. The U.S. invaded Afghanistan, and of course, how can we forget the events of 9/11 the year before, followed by the anthrax attacks. In racing, Dale Earnhardt was killed on a last-lap crash at the Daytona 500, thus throwing the entire industry into grief. Wikipedia first goes online, and Napster was closed by the courts for copyright infringements. Internet crime became against the law. The Code Red virus attacked 250,000 websites running Microsoft web servers. Apple releases the iPod. HP and Compaq merged. Windows XP was released. Popular movies that year were Harry Potter and the Philosophers in the UK, or The Sorcerer's Stone in the US, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings, Monsters Incorporated, Shrek, Ocean's 11, Pearl Harbor, The Mummy Returns, Jurassic Park 3, Planet of the Apes, Hannibal, A Beautiful Mind, Training Day, Monsters Ball, and Moulin Rouge were all at the movies. Popular musicians were Janet Jackson, Destiny's Child, U2, Alicia Keys, Missy Elliott, Dido, Elton John, Jennifer Lopez, REM, and Aerosmith. Popular TV shows were Boston Public, CSI, Ed, Malcolm in the Middle, Survivor, The District, and The Weakest Link. And we can't forget Everybody Loves Raymond, Buffy, Dharma, King of the Hill, South Park, Dawson's Creek, Sex and the City, The 70s Show, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. In 2011, it was beginning to become more acceptable to wear casual clothing to work. Capris and flip-flops became standard wear, and no one really batted an eye. A house cost $262,000. Gas, $3.52. A stamp was 44 cents. Gallon of milk, $3.39. A movie ticket was exorbitant at $8. Average yearly wages, $40,000. Noticed it went down. Gabrielle Giffords was shot. The earthquake hit Japan, causing a tsunami responsible for 16,000 deaths, 6,000 injuries, and 3,000 still missing. President Obama announced that Osama bin Laden was killed by Navy SEALs in Pakistan. A tornado cuts a 6-mile path through Joplin, Missouri, more or less, flattening the entire town. U.S. banned the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy in the military. Occupy Wall Street began. The iPhone 4 was released, and the co-founder, Steve Jobs, passed away. Google released Android version 4.0, nicknamed Ice Cream Sandwich. Prince William and Kate Middleton were married, and Amy Winehouse passed. REM broke up. Russell Brand and Katy Perry filed for divorce, and actor Charlie Sheen was fired from 2.5 Men over his erratic behavior. Remember winning? Now to 2022. Much of our work was internet-based now, and the term cloud computing was just being thought of. But so much has changed now, just in how we work, but where we work. Things never accepted then are now the norm. Today at my age, I cringe when I see how some of my peers dress at work, and I know it's a generational thing. But I also consider it part of being professional. I do work at a small private college in a very rural area. And if there's no students on campus, men wear polos and khakis. That's okay for business casual. Women wear capris, t-shirts, and flip-flops. My own aesthetic is to not wear those to work. Wearing stockings makes you old-fashioned. And you could be the only person wearing them out of 200 staff members in any given day. Jeans have become acceptable. Most of our computer programs are cloud-based. Even Windows and Microsoft programs are offered on a subscription-based called Office 365 with automatic updates when they're released. Storing files on Google Drive or Dropbox or Evernote are all acceptable ways to file and share documents. These ways of working didn't exist 50 years ago. Who remembers the good old days of working with carbon paper and an eraser? So what have we gained with the transition? We've become more adept at teamwork and collaboration. That's a plus. However, we've seen the end of empire building, I hope. Workers can have a greater sense of self with decisions being made at the lowest possible level, and we are allowed to think for ourselves and not just routinely follow procedural tasks. That transition from task-based to project and team-based work is huge. More people are striking out on their own with consulting businesses on the side. Working from home during COVID will inevitably change the workplace. And I've been seeing it much more. People are working from home 2 to 3 days a week now, just because they can. But we've lost something in that translation. We've become a much more casual society. We text our customers and our vendors. Voicemail is almost not used. I just had our conference call service stop offering the product. Our emails are so full of spam that most of it can be deleted immediately. So that too is dying out in favor of Teams, Zoom, texting, and social media. We've already forfeited writing letters in favor of email, and now even that's going by the wayside. We've adopted slang introduced by the lazy people on the internet, partly because of Twitter. They're the prime example because of the limit of 140 characters. You had to get creative in order to get your message across. There was a survey recently that asked, this was New York State people, what the hardest word was to spell. And the response shocked me, and I didn't believe it when I first read it, because it was something I learned to spell in elementary school. But the word was beautiful. We've also lost a gracefulness, an elegance of days gone by, like with manners and how you introduce people and the hierarchy of acknowledgement. We've stopped teaching cursive writing to our elementary children. Business schools no longer teach shorthand. Let's not even mention who can still diagram a sentence. People not in the trucking industry don't know what the acronym FOB stands for. That's freight on board and is part of your bill of lading for your truck shipment. We rely on instant payments like PayPal and Google Wallet. Checks have now become a thing of the past as well, and they're treated as an instant debit to your checking account. Even in the change with my professional association, IAAP, we've turned all our records over to headquarters or the local historical society. One level of professionalism has been lost in knowing how to run a meeting according to Robert's Rules of Order, to know when to speak or ask for the floor during discussion. It was all learned in seminars and webinars and face-to-face sharing of information. Those who knew how to write bylaws now feel unnecessary. Those who painstakingly learned how to run meetings no longer have meetings to run. We are now glorified event planners. Have you ever gone to work on a Sunday or a Saturday with no one else there and dressed in jeans or even sweats and tried to get some work done? At the beginning of this transition, I would have said it was really uncomfortable and I was not successful doing it. However, during the COVID pandemic, I became more successful at it. However, my current setup at home is not conducive to focus on work tasks. So I was not very successful doing this. I remember hearing of a study some years ago. A boiler room sales operation wasn't meeting their projections, and the boss called in an efficiency expert to observe and give suggestions for improvement. When he walked into the office, he was immediately struck with the casual atmosphere in the building. Salespeople were in jeans and t-shirts. They had their feet up on the desks. They were chewing gum or eating and literally arguing with potential customers. The company instituted a dress code and required better standards from their employees, and their sales rose dramatically. When the salesperson felt more confident, it showed in their sales pitch. When their customers felt respected and listened to, it showed in their sales figures as well. But as we transition the workplace, this will become a moot point. During lockdown, my employer closed campus. So other than essential workers for food, custodial, safety, and mailroom, no one was on campus without special permission. I had a tough time converting to working from home because I was using makeshift furniture sitting on the couch with a dining room chair in front of me with the laptop and my work spread out on the couch next to me. I found I was leaning over all day and had to take frequent breaks and stretch. When my daughter moved in with me a month later, I moved to the bedroom because she was sleeping in the living room. It took me over a month to find a desk because they were all sold out. And I had to find one that fit into the room and was in my price range. But I felt as though I was always at work. I had to maintain my usual routine of schedule, getting up and going to bed at the same time, dressing for work instead of staying in my pajamas all day. Now, I didn't fully dress up wearing dresses and suits, but I did wear like an Oxford button-up shirt, and most days it was a pair of jeans, but no shoes. I had to make the differentiation between work and home, so I would actually change my clothes at the end of the day. Literally, my desk was 3 steps from my bed, so I always felt like I was at work. But those little changes helped a lot. Don't fall into the trap of doing business in a casual way because you're dressed casually, unless it's called for. Hold yourself above the average employee. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you should too. So how do I know if I'm a professional? Do I mirror my company's mission and vision statements? It's important to first know your company's mission and vision statements and to know how your job fits into those statements. Part of my job is to promote your company on a daily basis, so knowing these is a good start. Do I treat others with respect? Think back to the golden rule. Do you still exhibit those qualities as an employee? Do you say please and thank you and you're welcome? Do you give someone the benefit of the doubt when you didn't receive something from them? Or do you shoot back a rude email saying, did you forget to send me whatever it was? Do you follow up with people with gentle reminders rather than scathing evaluations of their skill levels? Do you treat others as you would like to be treated? This does not mean that if someone is rude to you, that you fire back just as rudely. If you have patience and understanding, most of the time, you can get them to mirror back your attitude. Have you kept your sense of humor? A sense of humor is always beneficial in an office setting. You work with these people day after day. There are times you're with these people more in a week's time than you are your own family. Well, of course, there are situations that require tact and diplomacy. Not taking yourself seriously is a good way to go. This does not mean to laugh at someone else behind their back because they did or said something stupid, but keep the atmosphere light. It also doesn't mean to be the work clown either, because that's just a time waster and attention seeking. So ask yourself, do I exhibit behaviors that I wouldn't do in front of my boss, mother, or children? This is sometimes the most difficult. We get lazy and we begin letting our guard slip. A curse word there, a short skirt here, a see-through blouse, whatever. I could go on and on. Do I have specialized knowledge? Have you made the personal commitment to develop and improve your skills? Are you Mouse, CAP, or PACE certified? Or do you have a degree? Are you reliable, honest, and exhibit integrity? Do you take accountability? Are you self-regulated? Are your skills outdated? Maybe join a professional association. They have many educational opportunities. Develop emotional intelligence and honor your commitments. Be polite and be prepared. You want to be prepared when walking into a meeting or logging into the Zoom with your bottle of water, your notepad or iPad to take notes, and have your handouts ready. Your appearance is only a part of what professionalism is all about. So, what did you answer to yourself with those questions? Did you like what you found? If you did, that's great. Although you exhibit professionalism, there may be other areas of growth available to you. So never think you're done growing and staying relevant. Culture is ever evolving. It's up to you whether to embrace it or let it pass. If you did not like what you discovered about yourself, start to work on your patience, your tact, your diplomacy, whatever it was. Don't try to change everything at once. Work on one thing at a time. Remember, it takes about a month to change a habit, but for some of it, it may take longer. These are thought processes that you may need to change. Once you become confident that you've mastered the new behavior, you can start on another one or start on an education plan. Self-assessment is key to knowing what to keep and what to work on. Tearing down what is and rebuilding what you'd like to be is an awesome task. Changing habits and ways of reacting become so ingrained in your subconscious that you don't think about them until someone points them out. If you do any public speaking, a great example would be long pauses and getting a case of the ums. We had a director that was still quite young for the position. She was only about 30, and she was promoted to the position of IT director, which is second in command. She had the technical skills and was still learning how to navigate the political correctness in our own situation. She tended to see things in black and white, and I know that was her military background. She spent 10 years in Navy intelligence and not even attempt to see any grays in any scenario. She dressed professionally, she spoke eloquently one-on-one, but when she was in front of a group of people, she spoke off the cuff with lots of ums and phrases like, "so what it is," which damaged her credibility without her really knowing it, because people only heard her uncertainty rather than her seeing her amazing technical skills. If you find you lose patience with people on the telephone on a regular basis, and yes, I do that, you may need to redirect that into understanding that often two people speak different languages. Now, I don't mean as opposed to Spanish, French, German, and English. Our controller would often say that she speaks accounting and we speak IT. And some of the terms mean different things. And our way of communicating are much different. She too was more of a black and white, which I think comes with the accounting character. Try to find a middle ground where both of you can understand what's being said. Because there are students around us, we very often don't curse in the office. I was never one to curse a lot anyway until I had a major life event, and then it was, let's go, bud. I then took back my power by saying certain words when I felt like it, just because there was no longer anyone there to censor my language. So one day, I was doing some validation work between two systems, and I uncovered what I thought was a huge error that had very far-reaching implications. My CIO and the director were in the office next to me meeting, but the door was open. I actually whispered a certain four-letter word, sort of reverently, confirming the gravity of the error. They heard me and didn't let me live it down for quite some time. Respect for other people's time, efforts, and talents will always be noticed. If you constantly ask for favors or you redo other people's work, they will not think favorably about you. Many years ago, I took a seminar about efficiency and those types of things. At one point of the day, we broke up into groups, and I really hate doing those things, and I'm sure that was evident. I'm an introvert, and I just sort of stay on the outskirts of things and observe. We broke up into teams of unknown people. There were over 20 people in the room. And we had to somehow lift a bowling ball with a bunch of clothesline ropes, using only one hand, but doing it as a group. At this time, my wrists were hurting a lot with the beginnings of carpal tunnel, and I couldn't do a lot of motions that were required for this exercise. Some motions just caused excruciating pain. Inevitably, the natural leader in our little group of 4 or 5 took over as the moderator, expecting and started ordering everyone in the group what to do. I surprised myself by actually saying out loud that I didn't think I could do the motion they wanted me to do, which was lace the last string in the formation to lift the bowling ball. Unfortunately, she only heard that I said I couldn't do it. She didn't hear why or didn't care, and assumed I didn't know how to do it, and just bullied me to do it anyway. The moderator was doing her job and watched the interaction, and after we were done, as her summary, she pointed this out. Not only did the lady disrespect me by not listening to what I said, she dismissed my concern about being able to make the movement she was asking. I could have left that day feeling very sorry for myself that yet again no one listened or cared that I was hurting. But the moderator was able to turn it into a learning lesson for the others to listen and ask why. At the same seminar, she gave us an example of a real work problem she'd been called in to help navigate. The company had a 38-step procedure to pay an invoice. And it wasn't anything they set out to create, it just sort of morphed into it. What she discovered was that an invoice had been routed to all these people in an attempt to avoid dealing with one employee who was hard to work with. They created all these workarounds to avoid dealing with her on any level, and it had morphed into this 38-step process. The reason I'm sharing this, to encourage you not to be or to become that person. Do not be the most difficult person in your office to deal with. Very often, people fear conflict and will do anything they can to avoid it, especially prolonged interaction. Don't let that be you. It's only a power play because of a lack of self-esteem. You should want to be the person everyone goes to with their questions and problems, because you know how to solve them. Ask yourself if you want to be right or be happy. It's important to have procedures and to follow them for consistency and even for audit reasons. Some are legal and some are illegal. However, you should know the purpose for each step of your procedure. So if a certain scenario doesn't work within those confines, you can appropriately change it to accommodate any oddity or explain to someone why it's done that way. How many times have we heard this phrase, dress for success? We hear it all the time. Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. In a perfect world, our work would be judged on just that, our work. It shouldn't matter how we dress, wear our hair, the music we play in the office, and how we speak. But in reality, it's the whole package that you are judged by. I'm not saying that you have to dress a certain way to be professional or to have credibility in the office. However, if you dress provocatively or too casually, wear too much makeup or no makeup at all, if you play classic hard rock instead of classical music, if your work is not stellar, if you can't find things you file, or you have a typo in the email to the president of the company, all of this looks less than favorable on you. It hurts your credibility and may hurt your reputation. There are, of course, exceptions to this rule. For example, the past international president, Mary Ramsey Droe, wore jeans to work every day. And when I first heard her talking about it, I was shocked to hear that she wore jeans every day, until I learned where she worked. She was the assistant to the president of Harley-Davidson Motorcycles in Milwaukee. If she went to work every day in heels and a skirt suit, she would not fit in and appear unprofessional because of the corporate culture. So always temper what you wear and how you act according to the corporate culture. You need to determine your personal code of ethics and work toward adopting them into your everyday life. Then adopt your corporate values, ethics. For example, you decide you want to be more professional in preparation for promotion or a new job. You're already quite close to your goals, but you need a little tweaking. You want to add one more behavior to your list. So you decide, okay, I'm not going to gossip anymore. Or you tend to tell a small white lie when you've done something you're not supposed to. Both are very slippery slopes. Most of the time, when I think I have a juicy piece of gossip to share with my leadership team, they've already heard it, or they question its validity. So I learned to keep my mouth closed. When I hear something good, I just go home and tell my family. It's not as exciting, but it beats getting the response that they already knew. And are you sure that's really what you heard? Lying is never good, but there were times in my life when I took the blame for everything. It was right after I decided I was done lying constantly to get out of trouble. This trend carried over into a long-term job where I started out trying to do everything right. If the boss thought something fell through the cracks, he would question me, and thinking I had already done it, I would say so. Unfortunately, I hadn't always done that task, and I'll make an admission here. I went so far as to fake mailing an envelope by backdating it on the postage machine and damaging the envelope to make it look like it'd been caught in the post office gear or something. That was not my finest hour, and one I truly regret doing to this day. It was very unprofessional. At one point, I made a decision that I really wouldn't lie anymore. It doesn't help, and it just causes more issues, so I stopped. No matter what it was, I owned up to it. I'd grown up lying to get out of being in trouble with my alcoholic father, and it continued into my marriage. It was a trauma response that never really helped, but it's a very common trait. I got so I would find an error or something went wrong and take it to the boss myself so that we could do damage control. This really worked well for me because, number one, he didn't hear it from a client or a coworker, and number two, he didn't have a full head of steam aimed at me. It sort of took the wind out of his sails. Another more recent situation happened, and I managed the cell phones at the college, and someone needed an upgrade because they dropped their phone and cracked the screen. It wasn't an emergency, but I was ordering 2 others that day anyway, so I included hers in the order. When the statement arrived, it was far more than usual, so I took a look through it, and we have over 80 phones. But the statement was 9 pages long. I finally found the charge for new equipment was $700 for the person with the cracked screen. Like in retail, they have promotions every quarter that work with our New York State contract. The upgrade I got her was supposed to be $100 because nothing is free anymore. All of these costs were charged to the department that uses them at the end of the month, and I had told her this was a free upgrade. So I could not in good conscience charge that department for what would have been a billing error on Verizon's part or my error in misunderstanding. So I called my IT director and explained what happened and offered a solution that IT, my department, would eat that cost. Because of the level of authority the person has in the organization, he agreed, and we moved forward. I did contact the sales rep and ask him to look into the purchase, hoping that they would find an error and correct it, because I believed I did all the right things for it to be a much lower cost. If you need help with developing your personal code of ethics, look around you and list behaviors that you don't like in others, and make sure you don't do them as well. IAAP has a code of ethics, and that's always a good place to start. I believe there are 5 core values. Corporate values start with their mission and vision statements. Then they're developed through their corporate culture. You need your personal ethics defined first before adopting a corporate code of ethics. Many companies did nothing to steer or develop their own corporate culture, but many do now. Look at Microsoft and Google for their corporate culture. They led the way for casual, developers in robes and slippers in the early days, to nap pods and free lunches at Google. Along with those perks, you were expected to perform. If you've seen the movie with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, The Interns, the corporate culture was so foreign to their characters as 40-year-olds. The kids just out of college didn't understand what they didn't get because they understood it and took it for granted. You do need to be clear on one thing, though. Your corporate values should never override your personal ethics. If you believe it's wrong for an admin to make coffee or buy donuts, but the corporate culture says that's what an admin does, then by all means, negotiate or see if someone else can take over the task or even rotate it to others in the office. If you draw the line on running errands for your executive, like picking up dry cleaning or arranging for wife's flowers on Valentine's Day, then say you don't feel comfortable doing them. And then make arrangements on your boss's calendar so he or she has time to do those errands. Pull phone numbers or website links to make it easier for them. One of the most common things I've been asked to do is lie for my boss. A phone call will come in, and when I try to transfer it, he or she says, "Tell them I'm not in." And I know that's a standard thing to say, but I really couldn't tell them that because it wasn't true. But I can creatively come up with a compromise that satisfies the boss and keeps my integrity. I usually say, he or she is not available to take your call. That covers all bases. They don't need to know that the boss is in their office doing a report. They don't need to know they're in a meeting. They don't need to know that they're not in the office, unless it's the direct report. I will make that clear. I use the same tactic when I have to postpone meetings when he or she has a personal conflict. The other person does not need to know the reason for postponing the meeting, just that it is. Start as you mean to finish has become my mantra after messing it up so badly in my past jobs, to encourage people to start as they wish to continue. I made the mistake of being so shy that people think I don't know anything. In one quite lengthy job, I was seen as the perpetual student, even after the initial learning curve and with 20-some years of experience. I now encourage new hires to start the job being themselves. Don't change your character just because you're in a new job. You still have to be professional, but don't change your personality. It took me a long time of watching new people come and go. In one job, we grew from an office of 7 to over 25 over 10 years. And some people got away with a whole lot of behaviors that would never have been accepted from me when I started. I came to the conclusion that if I'd started the job with the knowledge and attitude I had now, I could have been able to act the way I wanted. Unfortunately, I did not. So I was stifled by my own demeanor as a newbie. I worked in an office for 15 years and became an IAAP member during that time. That association helped me grow my skills exponentially. I gained confidence and developed myself as a leader. But that never translated to my job because I was not seen that way. They did not allow me to grow. At the same time, I saw people come into a defined job and refuse to do certain tasks. It wasn't an ethical stance. It was something like, I don't like doing taxes. Or, I think the trust distribution should be done by someone else. That's too much responsibility. And this person got what they wanted. Now they have been promoted to a vice president, and as far as I can tell, they really don't do any work other than validating and double-checking other people's work. That's a nice job if you could get it. I read somewhere that it takes other people 1 year to see the changes in another person. That's a long time of proving yourself to just be who you really are. So please, if you change jobs, start as you mean to finish. Yes, there may be new skills and tasks and procedures, but as far as office practice and experience on the job, you know as much as you need to be an expert in your office. Professionalism is so much more than putting out good work, how you dress, how you present yourself to others. It should be seen as positive, not just what you shouldn't do in specific scenarios. It's an inner belief in yourself, pride in your work and appearance, and ethical behaviors that set you apart from others in your field. Thank you for joining me at Rising to Excellence Admin Training. Our contact information is on the slide, and if you have any questions, please email me. I will get the chat going on the website soon, I promise. Rising to Excellence focuses on the admin and our daily tasks and duties, and uses webinars to provide easy access to short bursts of information at an affordable cost, which I know is very important in these days. Thank you for joining me. My name is Diana Rockwell. Have a great day.